Okay, thank you, everybody. This is the Town of Andover Board of Finance meeting for Wednesday, February 28th. We'll go ahead through our meeting agenda. The first is the call to order and pledge of allegiance. We'll say the pledge of allegiance. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Move on to agenda item 2, which is public speak. We do have some visitors today. I think they are mostly our candidates. Linda, we also have you. Does anybody have any members of the public would like to speak during the public speak portion? Of course, the candidates will get an opportunity to speak once we get to that point in the agenda. Okay, hearing none, I guess we'll move on. Agenda item 3 is changes or additions to the agenda. Does anybody have any suggested changes or additions to the agenda?
Mark, I had one. Did we receive any late communication today by email at all? I wasn't able to check after. Okay.
I haven't, no.
Okay, that's more of a question. No, I don't have any changes. I'll wait till open discussion at the end. It's a quick thing. Thank you.
Okay.
Joanne,
All
in
right.
answer to that, I did send everybody out just before this meeting what the Board of Selectmen is passing on to you for the budget. Not anticipating that we talk about it this time, but so that you have it for next week's budget discussion.
Thanks, Eric.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Okay.
Is that their recommended budget? They're not going to meet on that anymore? Everything's good?
As far as I know, they're not. They pretty much approved it.
Okay, very good. Thanks. Okay, well, anybody else have any comments or questions about the agenda? All right, we will move on to agenda item 4. 4A is the vacant position on the Board of Finance. As all of the members are aware, we have 3 people who have expressed interest in the open position on the Board of Finance. One is Stephen King. The second is Kimberly Person. And the third is Adrian Mandeville. And I don't see Adrian connected, but we do have, looks like Kimberly and Stephen. So what I would propose is that we give each of the interested parties an opportunity to kind of say hello, introduce themselves, tell us why they're interested, and give us a little bit of their background that they think would be relevant to this position. And then any of the board members can ask further questions if you have any. And we can do one of 2 things. We could either go into executive session to discuss the appointment, or we could table it to the next meeting some other time. So I'm good with either. I do think we want to get somebody on the board sooner rather than later. We haven't really started our budget discussions, but that's going to happen awfully quickly, as everybody knows. So we'll go ahead and start. First on the agenda is Stephen King. Stephen, can you hear us? Okay.
I can hear you just fine.
And we can hear you. So welcome. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and your interest in the position. So we don't often get multiple people interested in open positions. So it's a nice opportunity for us as well. So again, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, why you're interested in the position, and give a little bit of your background, if you would. I know you did include a resume with your letter of interest, which is helpful. So.
Sure. I've been in town living here for now about 14 years. I married a lifer who grew up in town, and we live over on Burnett Brook Road. In the past year, I've had some interactions with the town, and it's kind of caught my interest in getting involved in some of the town politics. And recently got involved with the RTC in town, and speaking with Jeff Murray, he mentioned that the Board of Finance had an opening, and it would be a good opportunity to get my feet wet in getting involved in the management of the town and town politics. So I figured I'd reach out and see what it's all about, and meet everybody, and see if it's something I'd be interested in doing, and you'd be interested in my qualifications. I'm a graduate of Central Connecticut State University and the University of Connecticut. I currently work full-time for the state of Connecticut, supporting cell and genome science over at UConn Health, which is, we support about $350 million in grant-funded research and manage 4 data centers throughout the state. And we support the entire UConn community of PIs, affiliates, and collaborators. So it's somewhat of a stressful job. So, but the bennies are pretty good, and I've got a good department and a good bunch of people I work with. So that helps. On the road to retirement, hopefully in another 3 or 4 years. So I see light at the end of the tunnel. But I've been involved with business all my life, managing people, managing resources, and been very successful at it. I run a successful business out of my home, and I think I could possibly contribute to the Board of Finance.
Okay, thank you very much, Stephen. Does anybody have any specific questions for Stephen? Anyone on the board?
I do, Mark. So
Yep.
Stephen, clearly looking at your resume, you're so qualified for a position in the town and everything like that and in business. Have you followed? I know I've been in town, probably just a little bit longer than you. And I got involved for the same reason, following along and kind of wanting to participate and become part of the community. Have you followed the last couple of years, things that have been happening?
I've watched
With
the
budgets and, with all of the, the trying to move the town forward, or, that kind of thing.
Somewhat
Yeah.
followed. Followed the construction of the senior center.
Yeah.
Again, I mentioned I watched the mill rate go up, and taxes go up and things of that nature. I hear rumblings about spending and people dissatisfied with how money's being spent, and I just thought it'd be interesting to get a little more intimate with how we or how the town uses our tax money, our tax dollars. It's just some of the questions you ask, a lot of people don't have the answers. It was interesting. I was at an RTC meeting on Tuesday, and Representative Weir was there, and they were talking about taxes and spending and all the proposals that are happening in Hartford. And I said, well, I'm brand new here. Forgive me my ignorance, but I have a question for you, Representative. I said, I was never a proponent for illicit drugs, and the state has approved this marijuana use, and we're selling all this stuff, and there's tax revenue coming in. Where's that money going, and how's it being processed? Because it can't be funneled through a bank, because that's a federal institution. And he didn't have an answer for me. He said,
Right.
well, let me ask, I'll find out. So I guess the only way to find out this stuff is to get involved. So, in a nutshell.
No, clearly you have the interest, so that's good. And I agree. I kind of got involved the same way that you did, balancing spending versus taxes and mill rate and the whole thing, and making sure, and I'm not trying to preach at you or talk to you. I'm going to let all the other board members ask questions, but I think that's good. I think more people should get involved to balance it. Not every, just like a household, we've always said, every year you can't fund every single thing. You've got to pick and choose, come up with a plan. Like Mark said, we'll be getting into the budget soon. I personally, just because of the stage of life I'm at, kind of like you, been involved. I've listened to every single town Board of BOS budget meeting, kind of to see what they have in mind for the spending and the taxes and all of that kind of thing. So that's great. No, thank you for answering my questions.
One other point in passing, my wife and I are here for life. I intend to die here. So, and that the town's going to be important to me, and the success of the town is important to me. And for those, if you didn't read my resume, I've been involved with, and I don't know if this is a good thing or bad thing, maybe a bad thing for some, but the Andover Sportsman's Club, I've been involved with the board of directors now since I joined it back 12 years ago. And for the past 5 years, I've been the chairman of the board and the chief range safety officer. And I like to think of, we've had some great accomplishments at the club. We're very strong financially and done a really good job. I got a really good group on the board. And I think that's a testimony to how I run my business. So.
Nice.
I have a question.
Go
Mark,
ahead,
you
Louise. Yeah, I got it. Thanks.
Steve, what do you feel the biggest challenge is for Andover? I know it's a broad
It's
question.
a broad question. I think an interesting one is understanding demographics, housing, and schooling, and the costs associated with that. The demographics have changed. The housing has changed. And I know that we have several towns pooling all these resources into the school budgets, and I know that's always been a bone of contention as far as and a strain on budgets, and that's certainly something I'd like to understand better. But the demographics is an interesting one, especially with the rise, the shortage of housing. There's not a lot of construction going on. I was just having a conversation with somebody last night. Not a lot of construction in Andover for new housing, so there's a huge shortage. So it drives up the prices. But as opposed to some other towns where there is construction and a little more housing available. So, and I guess the question is, the people moving in, do they have young children? Is that going to cause a strain on the school systems? I know we have a grammar school here, and then how do those dynamics work as they progress through the school system through the years? So I guess a lot of it has to do with looking forward, not just looking at the immediate expenses, but looking down the road 4, 8, 12 years down the road, which is important. Something that I always try to do is look forward.
Thank you.
Questions or comments from other board members?
Mark, I just wanted to, I know you talked about how we're handling this tonight and then you went right into the candidates. I like that we're speaking. I just wanted to voice that I like that we're speaking to the candidates themselves, being able to ask them questions like we've done in the past. I would hope that we would go into a brief executive session if you thought and discuss if we think we know what we want to do or if we want time. Again, like you said, not necessarily making a decision since we're probably going to have 3 qualified candidates and we're going to want to think about, so that's my only input that I wanted to ask at the beginning. That would be the way, what I'd like to see. I don't want to keep the candidates on hold forever tonight.
Yeah.
I would like to go
Yeah.
that way if we could.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I'd second that. I'd like to go to executive session, just have a quick conversation amongst ourselves. Yeah.
all right. Thank you, Stephen. I think the one thing I would mention that if Jeff Murray told you getting into the Board of Finance was just getting your feet wet, he may have been underplaying the role. It's can get a little bit interesting during budget season. It's
Got a good set of waiters.
you may need a scuba to that. So, but no, it's I appreciate the interest. We definitely need people involved in the town. It just makes us all better if we get people who are interested, involved, and committed. So we definitely appreciate all of your participation tonight. So thanks very much. Okay, so if nobody else has any questions for Stephen, we will go ahead to Kimberly Person. And am I saying your last name right, Kimberly? So
Yes, you are.
Oh,
Can you all hear
okay.
me?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, thanks.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
I've heard it pronounced that way, but I didn't
I'm
want to
on
make
my
any
iPad.
assumptions.
No, it's fine. So I'm Kimberly Person. I grew up in Andover, actually, on Pine Ridge Drive. I have 7 siblings, 4 girls, 4 boys. Wonderful neighborhood to grow up on, Dead End Road. I went to Andover Elementary School, had a couple of kids. They went to Andover Elementary School. I was a children's librarian here at Andover Public Library. I ran a very successful nonprofit here in Andover, where I learned a lot about budgets, money in, money out. I learned a tremendous amount out of our community here and what needed to happen to grow that program into a very, very successful nonprofit. I listened to the community, grew the program, and I ran it for about 20 plus years. Eventually decided that I had left it the best that I could and went to work at Yukon Health. It's, I think that I can offer a lot to your group. I'm a very good listener, and I just think that can sprinkle some common sense on what can be very complicated. I've attended budget meetings. I've listened to a lot of Board of Education meetings, a lot of Board of Finance meetings. I have a ton of friends in the town of Andover because I've been here for so long. So I'm very interested in the position. I think I can help. Is there anything else you'd like to ask me?
We'll open it up to the board and ask if anybody has any specific questions. Go ahead, John.
Kim, I just
Sure.
wanted to, did you try to run for the Board of Finance this past year? If memory serves me correctly.
I did not.
Okay, and I'm trying to remember, and forgive me, I knew there was.
So
a
you
couple
probably
candidates.
saw me on the ballot to run for the Board of Education.
Oh, okay, so you were on the board. I knew.
Yes,
the name
yes,
seemed familiar. And I may be
Yep.
getting you confused with one of your siblings who I thought was appearing today, like you said, you have many in town.
Yeah.
No
Yes,
problem.
I was unendorsed, but I was extremely interested in sitting on the Board of Education as well. I actually sat on the Board of Education for a while,
Mhm.
and I ended up having to leave the role because of my position running the nonprofit in town. The two of the positions were a conflict.
Right.
So I had to give up my seat on the Board of Education in order to run the nonprofit.
Mhm.
Just quick
But the
question, what was that
experience that I
month?
gained there, pardon me?
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Why don't you finish?
That's okay.
What was that
That's
nonprofit?
okay. Cool. Community organized and
Oh.
operated latchkey.
Yeah, my kids went to cool. Okay, got it.
Okay.
A wonderful, wonderful program. I mean, it started out. So when I took Cool over, it had a state grant, and there were only 8 kids in it. The grant, at the time that I took it over, they had lost the grant, and I was left with this program with virtually almost no money. And oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So I started listening to the parents that were there, started advertising this program more and more. And quite honestly, I grew it to a program where there were 30 kids in the afternoon, 30 kids in the morning, taking in tuition. It was run completely on tuition only. And I then added in a preschool endorsement to it. And then after that, I left it to get a full-time job. Very proud of that. Very wonderful, wonderful experience. And that taught me a lot about budgets, our community, and, brings me here.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it's a necessary program for sure. So good job on doing that for
Extremely.
the
It's
families.
huge.
It's getting bigger and, childcare.
That
and-
program was created for parents who had nowhere to bring their children in
Right.
Andover for childcare.
Mhm.
There was no place to do it. Yeah, it was wonderful. It was a wonderful experience. And my
good
time
for
at Yukon
starting it,
Health,
yeah.
I worked for a neurosurgeon. That was my first program. Is wonderful too. But yeah, my roots are pretty deep in Andover. I'm here too for a long time.
Okay. Other questions from the board? Bill, sorry.
I would just repeat the question that was asked earlier. What do you see, Kim, as number one priority for you in joining the Board of Finance? for the town, I guess I would say.
What would
for-
my priority be
for-
for joining this?
Well, No, I said, I guess, what do you think the number one priority for the town is when you join the Board of Finance? What are the things that you see in the board, in the town as one of our top priorities? Or are you most interested in, I guess?
I think my biggest priority, listening to all of the meetings that we've had in the last 4 or 5 years, is listening to the town members and communicating with them openly and trying to maybe get them to understand why we're spending this money and what we need it for. I think there's probably a general misunderstanding of where the money is going and what has to happen with it. So for me, it's communication and it's listening.
Great, thanks.
If that's a good answer, you know,
It is a good answer for me.
that's what I tend to sit, listen, think, and then communicate after I've heard, you know, I have to think a little bit about how I'm going to respond to people.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think it's communication.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Other questions from the board? Louise, you had your hand up. Are you going to ask that same question?
I was. I
Sorry,
actually,
Louise.
It's a good question. So, okay.
I want to ask him, what do you do with the neurosurgeon at UConn?
So I worked, this was an interesting program. He was starting a brand new neurosurgery residency, and I was fortunate enough to get picked for the position. I worked for him for 2 years, and I ended up actually having to take over the administration of the entire department as well as run his residency. While I was doing that job, I was working on continuing medical education programs for him in another department, and I was recruited out of neurosurgery. And now I am in the continuing medical education program at UConn Health, and I administer the entire program for UConn Health, which is basically how doctors keep their licenses. They have to achieve so many credits. That's now where I am at UConn Health. Yeah, that the neurosurgery program was huge. He grew that program while I worked with him 300%. It was brand new.
Wow.
Big deal. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Okay, thank you.
Other
You're welcome.
questions or comments from the board? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Kimberly. We appreciate your willingness to serve, and thanks for
You're welcome.
talking to the board and letting us know who you are. Okay, and I see Adrian's joined us. Adrian, same opportunity to introduce yourself and tell the board a little bit about why you're interested and your background.
It's my mic here working. Can you guys
Adrian,
hear
we
me?
can't really hear you.
We're barely hearing you, Adrian. It
Yes.
sounds muffled.
Let me see if I can make this. How's that?
It's a little better, but still muffled.
My communication is a little glitchy on this side. I'm not sure if it's the storm we're having.
Yeah. If I can change the microphone.
It just sounds like you're talking through a pillow.
Yeah, I wonder if you have a laptop folded up or something, or the
No,
microphone obstructed.
Headset. Let me see if I can change. I apologize. I kind of said it earlier. Okay.
If it doesn't get better, I wonder if you tried to call in with a cell phone with the numbers. We could always try that. But
Yeah.
take your time. We're fine. Take your time.
Well, he's working
Potentially
on
shut
it.
my video off. Might offer some more bandwidth.
Yeah, I think it's probably on his end. Most people, you were slowing down a little bit, Kimberly, but I think, and we were getting a little bit of glitching in
I'm
the
gonna mute
video,
my
but
iPad. That
Okay.
might help.
For those who are new on the board, you may not know, but Adrian served before. He was on the Board of Finance for a number of years. He was on the board when I joined. Went on to Board of Selectmen and a brief stint, at least, I don't know how brief, but a stint on the Board of Ed as well, I believe. So
Mhm.
he's been around.
yeah, yeah.
But technical
Anything, Adrian?
difficulties seem to be,
Yeah.
Yeah, any,
Yeah, still muffled.
yeah, it's really bad, man. I'm sorry, we can barely hear you.
yeah, I'm gonna tell you,
All right. So yeah, Adrian was as Rob said, he was on the Board of Finance before I joined. Was elected to the Board of Selectmen, and that's why he moved on from the Board of Finance directly. So, and served on that role until last fall.
How often you meet monthly?
How often do we meet? Yeah,
Minimum of monthly.
yeah.
Minimum a monthly? Okay.
During the
this
budget
working?
season, we'll meet 3-4 times a month.
Hold on, Adrian.
Okay.
You're still kind of muffled.
Still kind of muffled. All right.
You
I
should
changed
probably
my-
just wait for Adrian.
It's getting better.
It-
Yeah, we
it
should.
sounds better. It does sound
Yeah,
better.
you're improving.
Great. I tried a different microphone. It's still not playing nice, I guess.
That's a little better. You can go ahead and give it a shot, I think.
Okay.
Adrian, you want to kind of give us the overview? Can you hear us?
Yeah, if you can hear me, I can't tell if this is working or not.
Yeah, that's better. It's better. We can hear you. It's a little muffled, but it's not, we can understand you. I think at least I can.
All right. Well, let's so I'll be honest, I threw my name in kind of last minute, believing that that you actually at that point had not had anyone put their put theirself forward. So I have to be honest in saying that excited to see that you had throw their name in. And so I personally have to say I think you guys are going to have a very tough couple of years ahead of you, whoever is on this board, because as a Board of Finance, it's not just about this year; it's about the coming years. And you have in 5 years from now, if you look at the population projections and percentages, your big issue is really going to be RAM. 5 years out from now, RAM is going to need $1 million more from the town of Andover than they're collecting this year. So that's really going to be your struggle. I have talked to, I talked, and I have took the time to talk of 2 good candidates there. And I've been saying for a long time, we really want to get more candidates involved. And you have 2 new candidates. I think it's good to have new members to the board. So that I am going to remove myself from the candidacy, and I would ask you to consider Steve. I think he's the best of the 2 that are going to be left. I think it's important that you guys consider all candidates, but I'm going to remove myself because I really thought you didn't have a qualified candidate, and now I see you do. And I think it's important to get new blood on these boards. I did do on the board myself. I did 4 years on board select, so I'm happy to step aside for a minute and let someone else take that lead. So I will let you guys make your decision between those 2, and I hope whoever you choose serves you well.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Adrian. Again, I appreciate your
Adrian.
willingness to step in. and volunteer when it doesn't look like you didn't think there was anybody in.
Yeah,
I think
listen,
you've got a role in this town in the future for sure, regardless. I know you were a good mentor for me when we started, when I was first put on the board, so I appreciate that.
and I will say candidly, if there's anything that I can do for this board or, another board, the town can always reach out to me. I'm glad to put some time in. I think you guys will do fine now. You've got a pretty good, your board has experience now. You got some fresh faces that can do well, but, I think you'll be fine. And, I do encourage you to consider Stephen, though. After talking to him, I think as the personality, I think you kind of dig down on some of these budgets pretty hard, and you guys know that, and it's always good to have
Okay,
someone to
yeah,
do that. So I wish you luck.
all right,
Have a good day.
okay, appreciate it,
Adrian,
Adrian.
good luck to you.
Yep,
Thanks, Adrian.
thanks
Thanks
again.
for all the information along the way. And when I was a newbie, you were quite kind with answering questions and everything, and we're always a wealth of information. So wishing you the best.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so thank you, everybody. So as part of this, before we move on to the next agenda item, I think we will, as suggested or proposed, we'll adjourn into executive session. And Eric, you can kind of discuss those particulars here, but I believe what happens is that members of the public will be moved to a waiting room.
That's correct.
And then once we're out of executive session, anybody in the waiting room will be asked back to the meeting. Board members, we can have Eric be part of this. We'd have to invite him, though, I believe, into the executive session. Is that correct, Eric? I'm remembering the process correctly.
Yes, if you don't want me in the executive session, that's fine. I have no issues with that. I just
Yeah.
would have to figure out how to
You'd
hand
have to-
over
You'd have to
the
hand over control. Yeah.
control. I'm actually looking at that right now because I thought you might end up doing that.
Personally, I
Yeah.
mean, I'd like Eric's input.
Yeah, I have no problem with that either.
And if it's logistically easier, let's just do it.
Yes, do it.
I was gonna say, I think it's fine that he comes in with us as well. I think it's gonna be our board's decision. I think we have enough
Sure.
experience and knowledge of being a board of making our decisions at this point, but obviously have Eric be there, of course.
Okay.
No objections, then we'll go ahead and continue on that basis. Okay. So Stephen, Linda, Kimberly, you'll be moved into the waiting room, and